Alright guys, there's the old store that they cannot get into, but we're going into Moses Austin's house right now. So if you remember last weekend when we were at the church, yeah, whenever we were at the church,
the lots behind here we call our heritage park. You know, so if any of you just want to walk through the park or something and test your abilities, that's fine. Up the street, just at the corner of the next block, there's like a little parking lot. Behind that parking lot, we own a cemetery that has a Revolutionary War soldier in it.
Ooh.
And his family. I don't know how many graves is in it, but anyway, they're all from way back. But anyway.
He said we could. Alright guys, this is Moses Austin's house. Thank you. And we're going into here. Try to catch what he's saying.
This is a scaled down replica of the house on the other hill, with it facing the same way it was when it was on the other hill. So you can see the rocks at the front there. Really, this is a prettier side of the house, but they wanted to turn it the way it was meant. And this is a piece of lead, of course, for which the area was known for. And this is a piece of barite, which is also known as tiff. Most of the time, if you scrub that up, it'd be like snow white. And this is a sketch of Moses Austin that was drawn by a school teacher.
Wow.
And then as we come through here, this is our gallery of armed forces related stuff. Up there are two pictures. Well, there's three pictures.
Right.
The two with people on them. Both of those men are named Michael Korchak. The one on this side was the nephew of the one on that side. They were both killed during war, during the service to the country. And one was buried over in France in the cemetery that is pictured. And the little picture in the corner up there is the gravestone of the man on the far corner over there. The one on this side was brought back to Missouri, and he's buried in the cemetery out at Richwoods, which was the area where they lived in.
Wow.
And let's see. The man on this picture over here was a brother-in-law to the man whose uniform is over here. The man over here was a member of our society from its beginnings until his death. The man on this side almost was my uncle. He was engaged to my aunt, my dad's sister, and they were to be married when he returned from service, but he did not return. He was killed in a plane crash during his service to our country, and it was 7 years before his remains were brought back. But when they were brought back, my aunt was at his funeral.
Wow.
And that was the true love of her life. She married, someone else as time went on, but that was the love of her life.
Wow.
Now in here we have our gallery of Washington County notables. And that is people who have either lived in and or worked in Washington County at some point in their life. Maybe they only lived here. Maybe they only worked here. Maybe they were both. But all of these people listed were recognized at the state level and or national level and or international level for one or more achievements in their life. Some were recognized at all three categories. But among the people, of course, we have Moses Austin. We have John Anderson Langford, who was the man who designed the Presbyterian Church. We have Willard Van Diver from Caledonia, which is a few miles south of here in this county. He was the one who said, "I'm from Missouri, you have to show me." If you've ever heard that phrase, he's the one who came up with that. Which, it's not an earth-shaking phrase, but it took,
It caught on.
Yeah, it caught on. Over here, we have Mr. Banta, whose house you were at. over here we have Pearl Pollard Curran. Pearl Pollard Curran was, she was several things, but she lived in this county, and she often came back here even after she moved, but she was a mystic, if you're familiar with a mystic. And she used to give that, when you were in the museum building up there, the old church, the building next to that you passed, the white building, used to be our opera house. And Pearl Pollard Curran used to have performances at the opera house where she would sing and play the piano and that type of thing. But she was also a mystic where she could go into a trance and she could tell you all about yourself, even if she'd never met you before. She could tell you about your past, your present, or your future, or all of it, really. But she was where, even if she wasn't talking about, say, the person in the room with her, she was where that she could fall into this trance and she could start talking and reciting things, which, you know, were stories of various things, but it was about people, places, and things she knew nothing about. It was places she had never been to, people she'd never known, and she could give details about them, about their lives, their deaths, their what they did, or all of that. And so after so long a time, somebody would sit there with her when she'd go into a trance and start writing all that down. And so, you know, word got around, this woman knew everything. And so a lot of people would travel a long distance to get a reading from her. But for these stories that she would recite, she felt that the spirit coming through her was the spirit of a woman named Patience Worth, and who had apparently experienced all of these things that she was telling about. And so anyway, when all of these stories were written down and all, they became books, and they're known as the works of Patience Worth. They're, if any of you are from St. Louis, where you're close to the big libraries in St. Louis, they probably would have some of these books, if not, you know, all of them. I don't know how many were made, but anyway, even though this woman died in 1937, her name comes up once in a while. And like every so often, there will be a story in the St. Louis newspaper about Patience Worth and, you know, what she did and all, and kind of remembering her and all. You know, it's kind of odd all these years later. But anyway, apparently people who've read the books found them to be very interesting. But anyway, she's over here now. Over here is Thomas Benoit. Some people would call it Benoist, but he called it Benoit. But anyway, he was an early aviator. And oddly enough, even though he died in 1917, just about maybe a year and a half ago, there was a day given in his honor down in Florida, I think it was, where they were remembering him and his early aviation achievements, because he helped further aviation. But the odd thing was, he could fly a plane, but he couldn't ride a streetcar. Because he was in Ohio, and he was riding a streetcar, and he saw someone out on the sidewalk that he knew, and he leaned out to wave at them, and he got hit in the head with the street lamp, and it killed him. What a way to go. But anyway, the things listed for these people are their achievements that help them to be among our notables. Now, some of these people did additional things, but you know, we put the most important things they did on here. It tells like where they were born, where they died, where they're buried, their achievements, and you know, perhaps how they died. But they're very interesting. Whenever this project was going on, we learned a lot of things about a lot of people we didn't know. We thought, you know, people did stuff like this and they actually lived here, of all places. But anyway, in our cases here are pictures of some of these people or things pertaining to some of these people. Now, on the far end of this case, there is a book on the bottom there that says High Styles. And that was written by a man named Buddy Walton. His name was Elvin, but they always called him Buddy. He had a twin brother, Melvin. So there was Melvin and Elvin. They were the kind of twins that don't look alike. You would never, to look at them, you wouldn't know they's even related, much less twins. But I knew of the people. Well, Buddy Walton, he is pictured up here on the top. He is with President Kennedy's mother, Rose Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
And his book there tells about his life and the famous people he got to know. He was a hairstylist, hairdresser, whatever you want to call it, in St. Louis at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel. And it was like if famous people came to St. Louis, they had to have Buddy Walton do their hair before they left town. You know, that was just a must. And so there's a number of pictures in the book of famous people, actresses or senators or, you know, from various different politicians and all. And it tells about his life. He was born in Washington County in the town of Mineral Point, which is just 2 or 3 miles over that way. And he was, well, there's no other way to say it, he was gay. And he was made fun of as a child because back then that was, you know, something you just didn't encounter people who were gay. And he was made fun of throughout his life. But even when he was a kid in school, he always liked playing in the girls' hair. And so the girls would go to him to, you know, braid their hair or whatever. And so he went on to become a famous hairstylist. And he even has an award named after him for his hair, you know, his hairstyling. So it tells about all of his life. But whenever he was contacted for information for our thing here, he said that he felt, even though he had known famous people, lots of famous people, and had lots of blessings in his life, you know, coming from very humble beginnings, and because of all the rejection and all that he endured, he felt the greatest achievement of his life was to be honored in our in our biographies here, because that was more or less saying that he finally felt accepted. And even though it was just really acceptance by our group, most of us knew him. And of course, he passed away a few years ago, but the last time he was in town alive, I saw him. He attended church service there. He was a member of the Mineral Point United Methodist Church, and it's just a very tiny little church, you know, just basically a sanctuary in a basement. But he gave money to them, and he had bought new carpeting for the church, and he had bought pew cushions for the church. And his last time to come to Potosi alive was to see the carpeting, since it had been put down and the pew cushions installed and all. And of course, he even gave him donations after that. But I was at that service where he was there, and my mother had known him the biggest part of her life. But anyway, he passed away not long after that, and I was at his funeral for the fact that some of his relatives are related. I wasn't directly related to him, but I was related to some of his relatives. And he was a very nice, giving man who would have done really anything for anybody that he knew of. Very caring man, but it was sad that he went through so much rejection in his life. But, you know, if you get a chance throughout the evening, you may want to read some of these stories, because they're about all different kinds of people and different things. Some of them even helped in the making of the atomic bomb.
Oh, wow.
And you think, oh my God, someone from Potosi helped make the atomic bomb. So wonder we have a town left. But anyway, there's a lot of interesting things. Most of the people listed here have passed away, but I think some of them are still alive. But not very many of them at this point. But anyway, you're welcome to look at all these display cases and different things. And these are some old books from the courthouse, records of different things. And it's kind of an ongoing project as people continue to fall into these categories. They will be added if we can obtain the information to continue this. The man who got us started on this project and who really did all of this passed away a few years ago. But anyway, we were so glad that he took the time and effort to contact all these people.
Yeah.
I think there were, in the original grouping, there was like 65 of these biographies, and he did all of the work. And some have been done since then, but the ones done since then aren't hanging up yet. But anyway, there would be several more. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this is where the fire was, as you can see the particle board.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Of course, in going through that room, this room, and this room was considered one apartment when it was an apartment house. And this is a door that the man broke in to live here. And they never did discover who it was who lived here at the time.
Wow.
But anyway, in the other part of the house, when you go across where you came in, into the other section, that is the original part of the house. The dog trot part of the house. And so, the doorways are about like this tall. But anyway, in the first room you will encounter like a table and chairs in there and lots of pictures. Those are of the Lucas family. Those were donated by a cousin of Mabel Lucas, the last private owner of the house. It was because of her death that we got the house. Mrs. Lucas's parents had owned this house for many years, and they had lived in a house in the center of this block that has been torn down. But oddly enough, the man who donated the stuff in that room over there, who was a cousin of Mabel Lucas, he never met Mabel Lucas. The man who donated it just was from Belgrade, which is just a few miles down the road. And Mabel and her family lived right there, but he never met them. Which is almost, it's like, why not? But anyway, whenever he heard that we had obtained the Lucas house, well, he wanted the Lucas family to be remembered. And when you go in there, there is a rag rug style rug on the floor. Virginia Lucas, wife of Ralph Lucas, who was the cousin who never met them. Virginia Lucas made that. Made that rag rug that covers the entire floor of the room. She made that by herself, and she was going to make us one of those for another room, but she got sick, and that never got done. But since their passings, some of the stuff in the museum where you were just at belonged to them. They left, I don't know if Jason up there would have told you, but there's a couple big trunks up there, and those trunks are from the Lucas family, but they're full of slides for a slide projector.
Oh, wow.
And we have I think it's like 80 carousels of slides. And we have no idea, who they are or where they're at, or, it shows pictures of like gravestones. It shows Mr. and Miss Lucas, they were in the military. They didn't have children, and they made military their career. And so they traveled all over the world. So, all the places that they traveled in the world, they took gobs and gobs of slides. And, of course, they didn't make a list of, this carousel was from France, or this was from Italy, or where else. So it's just for us to guess. But here we've got all these pictures of gravestones. We know surely they're people who had some tie to them, but we don't know where the graves are located. So we have all these carousels of these things with no clue. But it's, one of those things, it's history, they gave it to us, so, we'll keep them, we won't destroy them, but we just wish they would have put a little effort in it to tell us where they were from, or what the occasion was, why they were there, or whatever. So, all of you remember, if you give anything to a historical society, please tell something about it. Who you got it from, when you got it, why you got it, how you got it, something. But anyway, as you go through that section, that's the original part, the middle room of that section was the dog trot part. That's why the door to the outside is taller. That's where you'll find mining pictures and things. And then when you get to the back room of that, there's some of the mineral collections and mining related stuff pertaining to just here close by within Potosi. And then one of our rooms here, we have school related things in from different schools in the area. When you go upstairs, we have a photo gallery. We have a room with a double bed in it. The double bed was from the Lucas sale of Mabel Lucas's stuff. And the family who bought it felt when we got this house, we needed it back to represent Press and Ella and Mabel Lucas. Mm-hmm. Mabel Lucas never married. She had a brother. We don't really know a whole lot about the brother, but Mabel Lucas was an homemade school teacher for many years until she came home to take care of her ill parents and stayed with them till they passed. But the brother, he had a daughter. Well, the brother had a daughter and a son, but the son died a long time ago. But the daughter lived to be an adult. And the daughter apparently didn't have a whole lot of communication with Mabel, but there was a period of time that in the middle of the night, the police department was notified to go do a welfare check on Mabel Lucas to see, how she was. And the police went to her home, which, like I say, was just 2 lots from here. And the door was where they could get in, and they found her tied up and severely beaten. Wow. And now, how does someone just happen to know to check on her that night? Mm-hmm. When she lived alone?
Yeah.
But anyway, the police got her help and got her to the hospital, and she was, apparently in a bad shape. And if she had been left the way she was, she would not have survived. Wow. But, the police and all felt they needed to notify the family. And they knew she only had a niece, Lorraine. And they said, well, they need to locate Lorraine, and she didn't want them to. And they were saying, if she's your only family, she needs to know. And Mrs. Lucas made it very clear she did not want Lorraine around because she felt Lorraine had something to do with her being in that situation. Mm-hmm. And so, it went from there where Mrs. Lucas needed someone to be in charge of her, help her with the situation. And so a woman was appointed to kind of deal with that. And of course, there was a legal battle there where Lorraine was wanting to be in control of everything, being the only family member. But Mrs. Lucas was in her late 80s at the time this happened, and she fought the case. She did not want Lorraine to have anything to do with it. And it ended up that Lorraine stood to inherit everything. Wow. But as it turned out, she inherited nothing because her aunt fought it and won the case. But whenever, of course, Mrs. Lucas, you would have had to have known, I remember Mrs. Lucas. If you would have seen Mrs. Lucas, she was a small old lady, but she dressed like a homeless back lady type person. And she had a little cart that she'd pull with her. And she used to call my grandmother often, and they'd visit on the phone and all. But I had seen Miss Lucas different times. And up this way, when you go up this way about 3 blocks and then turn up by that strip mall and go up the hill there was a city dump up through there. And Mrs. Lucas would go up to that city dump almost every day and go through the dump to find anything.
Treasures.
And, I clearly remember there was a grocery store up the street here. And I remember a time my grandmother and I were coming out of the store, and Mrs. Lucas was sitting outside, and she said that she was just resting a little bit because she'd been up the hill. we all knew up the hill. But anyway, she was telling my grandmother, she said, you just wouldn't believe what people throw away. And she said, all the shoes I have on my feet I got up there. Well, of course, the ends of them were worn off. And, you know, they desperately needed thrown away. But that's what she felt was better than what she had on. But anyway, she said she got a lot of her stuff up there, a lot of her clothes and stuff up there at the dump. That's why you go every day before it gets rained on and all that stuff. But anyway, when Mrs. Lucas passed away, and her house was one that she could only live in like one room of it because it was so piled up and all. But anyway, when it was all said and done, Mrs. Lucas, she left $1,000 to 14 churches here within Potosi. Not really the county, but within Potosi. And she left, like I say, $1,000 to each of them. And she had the family farm outside of town a little bit, and she left it to the caretaker of the farm, who had been a long-time caretaker of the farm. Well, then, after that, she left this property to the Potosi Southern Baptist Church, of which she was a member. She hadn't been a member there all that long, but she left this half block here to the Southern Baptist Church. And she also left them the money she had left, which was just a little over $800,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And that's because she got everything from the dump.
Yeah, she got about everything from the dump. But, you know, she had been a school teacher in the St. Louis area for many years, so, you know, she had clothing that... Did I drop something? Oh.
It just keeps slinking down.
Oh, well, the wonder it's not worse than that. But anyway, she dressed nice when she was a teacher and all, but taking care of her parents, she didn't have to go to a lot of, you know, effort. But she used to do her shopping over here. When we came down the hill, there was that empty lot there. There was a store there back years ago. And my mother worked at that store. And Mrs. Lucas would come up there. And that was back in the day and time when you bought stuff by the pound. You know, they'd scoop it up for you.
Yeah.
And so she would come up there and she would always ask how much, you know, everything was. And you know, if it was so much a pound, well, could she get half a pound? Or, you know, could she get less where she wouldn't be out as much money? And of course, you know, for her, they'd do whatever she wanted. But there were times, you know, people wanted to be good to Miss Lucas, even when they thought she was poor.
Right.
And there would be people who'd say, you know, Miss Lucas, would you like, I'm going to such and such place, would you like to ride along? And she would ask them if they were going to charge her. And if, you know, if she thought they were going to charge her to take her along, she wouldn't go. And I said, no, we're not going to charge you. You know, we just thought you might want to take a ride. You know, go with us, whatever. But she always made sure she asked to make sure there wasn't any hidden charge there. But anyway, she and her family are buried at the cemetery at the end of this street. And she's buried there beside her parents. And, you know, if you have any questions throughout the evening at any point at any location, please, you know, feel free to ask us. I've been a society member for 37 years, so I may know the answer. But even if I don't, I might could direct you to who could tell you.
Okay.
But anyway, there's a lot of history in this area because we are one of the oldest towns in the state. And we were a town before we became a county. And we were both before Missouri became a state.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So the early records in the courthouse say territory of Missouri.
Okay.
And so, you know, we're proud of our heritage, and we want to try to preserve our heritage if we don't end up in a bunch of parking lots.
Right.
But anyway, we hope you enjoy your evening and hope you feel it was worth making the effort to come.
Yes, for sure.
And, you know, go through the rooms, and if you have any questions about any of the things, well, please, you know, say so. You will, let's see, it's the room above that room. When you go up there, there is something unique about that room, and I'll let you decide what's unique about that room. It doesn't have anything to do with death. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
nothing like that. But you'll notice something a little different about it. When I was saying about the fire earlier, the original fire over that way, there was a man who died as a result of the fire, but he didn't die here. He died at the hospital. But of course, there was a suicide with so-called suicide within the house. That's questionable, you know, if it was suicide or if he had help in the house. And we know what room it took place in. So if a person wants to know, we can tell you what room and about the position in the room where it happened. But a lot of people would just prefer to see if they could discover that on their own. But
So do you
anyway.
get much paranormal here in this building?
Well, it kind of depends on the occasion. Personally, I know there was one time I came down here I came down here to bring some stuff to put in the house. And my cousin, who was a society member also, came with me. And I was unlocking the front door and I heard noises in the house. And it sounded like someone was wearing boots running up the stairs. And I told her, I said, there's somebody in the house. And she's like me, there shouldn't be. You know? And so I told her, I said, you wait outside and I will go in and see, you know, what's going on. I went room to room. There was no one in the house, but that sound was just as clear as it could possibly be of someone running. You know, you could even tell which way they were going because of the sound of it. And it was just clear as it could be, but no one was here. But now on another occasion, when we had one of these events, well, I'll make this real quick. I can talk fast if I need to. But anyway, upstairs there was, in one room, there was the group of people who were here for this occasion. And so there were several people in the room. One guy was seated in a chair in the corner, and he had one of the infrared type camera things. And I was standing in a doorway, and there was a man standing right next to me. And it was unbelievably hot. It was like at least 100 degrees in the room. Because they wanted the window shut, you know, to keep the outside noise out. And we were just all sweating up a storm. And all of a sudden, this man sitting down, he said, "Are you cold?" And it's like, well, that's about as ignorant a question as you can do. And in that moment, I got iceberg cold, like I was sitting on a glacier. And the man next to me, he got iceberg cold. Now, I didn't say, he said it first. He said, "Yes." And I thought, I'm not going to answer because that's going to sound too stupid. But anyway, in that moment, he said, there is a presence between the two of you. Standing right behind you. And then, like after just a very brief moment, he said, "It's gone now." And instantly, we got sweating up a storm again. But for that moment, it was, you know,
That's crazy.
I've never experienced anything like that, and it wasn't a bad experience. It was just creepy. But anyway, if you need to go to your next stop or whatever you need to do.
I think y'all don't have team leaders tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Now is the time that you get your free. So get your equipment. Remember, they have it up there at the Jeep. And if you do have any more history questions, you know who to talk to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
we know what
sure.
to see.
Don't forget, upstairs here in particular, it's going to be this bedroom upstairs and in the back. This side and in the back has really been active the last few times we've been here, okay? So, you ready to split up and do what you want?
Awesome.
If anyone needs to go back up to their vehicle, I'll take you guys up there, walk you all up there.
All right.
And don't forget, there is a bathroom here.
Oh, yeah, I need that. All right, guys, this is the
We're gonna go upstairs.
Huh?
I'm gonna go upstairs.
Right?
Yeah, but they want us to do the paranormal stuff right now.
Yeah.
Well, I
said, let's
can't
go
do that
upstairs.
right now.
Guys over here?
All right, guys, come here, Mom. All right, guys, this is the house. They're kind of rushing us because we're behind tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It's an amazing house. Sorry these videos are so long. But anyways, we're being rushed. So come here, Mom. Please like
Subscribe.
and share everything. Thank you, guys. Over here.
Yeah.
Once again.